Left off on my last tape on seeking out a company to get a second passport where you don't have to get any sort of residency requirements. One of the reasons you want to get around this is Panama is a good example. Panama, you can put in the time period that you want that's required to get the citizenship, but the problem is a lot of times Panama won't issue the actual passport. There's a lot of corruption in Panama. So you could spend, 5 to 10 to 15 years there. I've seen people do this and still not get the citizenship and passport. Now, Panama does have a passport program that's outside their citizenship program, but the problem with that is, you're only getting the passport. And if you ever go to Panama and try to use the passport to get a job, it won't help you. You have to have the citizenship to get in a lot of the industries there. Like for instance, retail, real estate, insurance. These type industries are really the most profitable industries in Panama, and the government bars non-citizens out from getting in that type of field. So, in fact, I would advise people, if you're thinking about getting Panama as your second passport, stay away from it. Also, Panama has two other problems too that you'll run into. One is Panama requires you to give up your prior citizenship to get citizenship there. Also, there are other issues. You have to pass a language test there, which a lot of people don't realize until you get there. The best passport is to get a citizenship and passport that doesn't require you to relinquish your other citizenship. They allow dual citizenship. And this is one of the first things you want to look at. And one of the reasons you want this is because a country that tries to limit their passport or citizenship to only that country basically tells you they're trying to control your travel, and you want to stay away from a country that issues passports that don't allow dual citizenship. Some other things that I would take in consideration is you want a country, like I mentioned before, that allows a lot of visa-free countries or visa-free countries on arrival. Typically, I would be looking at what I call a AAA rated passport, is one that not only allows its citizens to travel to a lot of countries visa-free, but also has no income taxes. Now, when you take those two consideration, you'll knock out probably around 95% of all the passports out there. True, Germany, places like the UK, Canada, and places like Denmark have good passports, but then their taxes, they tax you on taking about half your income. So what I look at is countries that have, a lot of countries that allow you to go to them visa-free, but if you live in that country and want to work in that country, there's little to no income taxes. Some of the other things I look at is I would seek out a country where you can live and work there, whether you plan to do so or not, that's maybe close to some of the best schools and colleges, preparatory schools and colleges. And the United States, has its problems, but I will tell you this, it probably has the best colleges and preparatory schools of any place in the world. They have colleges like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, preparatory schools like Philip Andover, Philip Exeter. There are other schools, most of which are in the Northeast, which if you get citizenship and passport in places like St. Kitts and Antigua, you can literally be to these schools in about a 4-hour flight, because they're direct flights from St. Kitts and Antigua to New York City. And then these schools are real close distance from New York City. So you can live in these places, not have income taxes, but still go to some of the best prep schools and colleges of any place in the world. And that's the key thing you want to look at, is places maybe close to the U.S. that have good weather. And that's another thing about St. Kitts and Antigua. I've been all over the world, and you won't find any places where the weather is as good as it is in the Caribbean. In fact, the Caribbean actually beats out Hawaii as far as weather, and the water in the Caribbean is nice all year round. You'll find out in Hawaii the water can be actually icy cold a lot of times of the year, which is very difficult to swim. Some other things I would look at too is seeking out a place, whether you plan to live there or not, because you might one day plan to move to the place that you get citizenship, is seek out a country that has no or little water or air pollution. The Caribbean has probably some of the cleanest air of any place that you run into anywhere in the world. And surprisingly, Nevis and St. Kitts has a huge population of people per capita there that live to be over 100 years old. So if you're looking for a place that has little to no air pollution, no water pollution, these are great places to look at. And if you have a business also too that's internet related, or it's done outside the country, remember there's 7 billion people in the world. If your location is St. Kitts and Nevis or Antigua or Barbuda, and you're doing your business outside those countries, you can work just as efficiently from those places as you can from Germany or the US or the UK. And remember, those countries don't tax income inside or outside its borders. So not only are you having a place where you're not having to pay income tax, capital gains tax, inheritance tax, but you're finding a place that you don't have to worry about health problems from water and air pollution matters. Some other areas that you might want to look at too when getting a passport, or second passport, is I would choose a place that doesn't require citizens to join the military. The countries such as Israel, Singapore, they require their citizenship holders to or passport holders to, and their children to enter the military, which a lot of people don't want to do that. And not just you and your children, but also your grandchildren and generations are going to have to go through that. So I would pick a country that does not make its citizens go through the military service as part of the requirement to get citizenship. Other things I would look at too, in these countries too, I mentioned to you St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada, St. Lucia, places like Grenada, Dominica, they don't require their passport holders or citizens to go in the military. So this is a big thing that I would consider when looking at a second passport. And you know, I don't know about you, but I'm 63 years old, and a lot of people don't want to have to learn a second language. These countries I just mentioned also don't require you to pass a language test. So if your English is not real good, you know, English is the only language I can speak other than a little bit of Spanish. If you're from China or the Middle East and your English is kind of rustic, but you're looking for a country that's not going to require you, to pass a language test where you can get the citizenship quick, I would consider an economic citizenship program where you can get it, in 2 to 4 to 5 months, and you can bypass a lot of these hurdles that you're going to have to go through. Well, I hope you learned something today, and if you got any questions, just give us a call or text us an email. Thank you.